Live comedy events have been canceled across the country in response to COVID-19. Dave Hudson joins me now. He's a comedian and an actor and a dad living in Kingston, and he's also out of work. So let's talk about, making a living as a comedian is difficult enough on its own without having
Especially in
COVID-19 in the
Canada.
way.
Yeah, it's a real I don't know what you call it, a real shift, a real paradigm shift, I guess, when you think about just all of a sudden, and not just for me personally, but for every comedian I know. And then you add in musicians and live performers, actors. I know a lot of professional actors as well. And all of a sudden, the things we used to do, we can't do anymore. Not that we don't do, we can't, right? There's no, people are not, live shows are now not a thing, right? And that's a real adjustment that you have to make with no warning either. So in some ways, it's good that you feel like you're in the same boat as everybody in a way. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, you personally, Dave, can never do a show again. It's like, no, but everybody's in it. But it still doesn't change the fact that all the things that I used to do, because I have all assortment of strange little acting gigs and voice gigs and comedy gigs, are all they're gone now. So it's been a bit of a crisis of, who I am and how. Because a big part of who I am, I imagine, like most people, is how you express yourself, right? And how you, whether that's in your profession or whether that's in an art that you do or a hobby that you do, because I've always considered myself a bit of a hobbyist because just for a lot of reasons, medical reasons, and I have a big family that I can't tour the way that, say, some professional comics would. So I find it's a bit more of a hobby for me, especially with Canada. I don't want to live on the road all that time anyway. I was always a guy who just, here and there. So yeah, it's a challenge now, and I'm very lucky to be in a position where my wife does very well. She actually has a proper job where she does actual science work connected to COVID now, actually, because she works in a genetics lab. So they have switched over now, or in the process, I should say, as there's a lot of process with scientific research to get into that sort of thing. So we are financially secure. Very lucky to have that, but it was never about the money for me anyway. It was always just a bonus. It was just kind of a fun extra where, you know what I mean? I'd do a show and then like, okay, maybe we can go to dinner this week just for fun, right? And now you can't even really go to dinner, although you can order in lots of great stuff, which is good too. But yeah, it's a lot to process and digest, and then you add on top the quarantine. In addition to that, and I imagine it's quite stressful, not just for me, but for pretty much everybody, I think, who is anywhere in my profession, right?
Right. Well, your livelihood is being out in front of people, making them laugh, and now you're at home. You can't go anywhere and do that. How does that make you feel?
No. Well, my poor family, right? They're stuck. I have to listen to me do shows for them. Although I have now. Well, how does it make me feel? It makes me feel, worried about what it is that I'm going to do, and stressed out about not being able to just go out and do things. And also one of the big things that I love to do is going to see other art. I like theater, I like music, I like live music, I like local bands, and all of a sudden that's not an option as well. So there's a lot of sort of self-care things, or sort of, as I say, like feeding that art part of my brain by seeing other people do different art, that's gone too. So that, that's kind of a bummer. But I've sort of treated this now that I do a lot more of this live chatting rather than just texting people like we used to do. I think a lot of people are doing that now, where you're like, I'd rather have some more human interaction. And this is a nice substitute when you can't see people live. But it's, I treat it like a talk show. I'm like, oh, hey, here's my old friend Aaron. He's out in Vancouver. We're gonna have a little chat today over here in the afternoon. Just to sort of pretend that I'm doing that kind of a thing, and then we just joke around and talk and stuff. But and certainly imagine a lot of people. There's a million new podcasts and a million new whatevers, right? As people are trying to get what they do out there. So it's not something I've done yet. I imagine I'm going to do maybe something like that, other than like a silly video of me dancing or crazy stuff like that, right? Just sort of off the cuff things.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You've got to keep the funny out there. You got to keep people laughing. So how are you continuing that going besides the family?
Well, mostly social media, right? Like I'm pretty active on Facebook. A lot of friends and family on there. I have a lot of followers. Not a lot, but I have followers on there and what's really nice is, you got to take care of yourself. But I always like humor is my thing. I'm a funny guy. I like to make people laugh. So it's not hard for me to keep doing that. And this is a nice way. And I always did before. And I've gotten message over the years, and especially now, which is quite nice, of people sending me messages saying, David, I love that sort of say things that other people wouldn't say, you know what I mean? It's sort of, and then you joke around and you always put out a fun thing, you make me smile, it makes me happy. I look forward to reading your Facebook in the morning when I get up over coffee, things like that, which is really nice, right? Especially now where media and entertainers, I mean, there's, millions of choices, right? You can entertain yourselves in multitudes of ways. And so the fact that people are looking forward to my stupid status joke about my kid or my cat or my whatever, it's nice, and it keeps me thinking, okay, I'm doing something here. This is a positive thing, right? Of just in such a horrible, horrible world that we in the you know what I mean? We have like just horrible people in powers of position, and just climate change and the quarantine, and like there's a lot of outside stressors for people. And actually, I think people are doing pretty well considering all of the sort of the awfulness that we're subjected to every day. You know what I mean? Like there's a president of the United States talking about, oh, I wonder if we inject ourselves with disinfectant, if maybe that would do something. And you just think, is this real life? Like, how do you parody things like that? How do you mock someone who says things that you would, if your teenage son said, you would be like, we need to sit down and have a chat about things, about how the real world works. Like the time and the place to muse about things with doctors is not on live TV. But so it's nice that I can make people laugh and forget about stupid garbage like that, even if it is for a few minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to do it anyway, right? So I might as well keep doing it.
Exactly.
Can't really stop me.
So let's talk about your other role. You're dad too. And
I
now
am a dad.
the kids don't go to school anymore, so you're with them all day. How's that to go?
They really don't go to school anymore. That's a big one too. Now, of course, I have two teenage boys, so in a lot of ways, telling them they have to stay home and be on the computer is like they've hit the lottery, right? Sorry, kids, you can't go to school anymore, and you got to stay home all day, play video games, chat with your friends. So, their generation is made for this. Like they were already used to communicating with technology and entertaining themselves with technology. So that part is easy, but again, it's a struggle to make sure they're not doing that all the time, and that we play games, and that we build Lego, and that we go outside, and that we just have fun and chat. And it's fun because, it's interesting because in a lot of ways you sort of just let them go for the first 2-3 weeks. And then as they slowly come out of their caves, as they want more human interaction and stuff. And then I found we've actually had like serious, heavy, interesting talks, like about all sorts of things, which we always kind of did. And we're always a very open family about discussion. And this has just given us more time together, which again is good and bad, right? It's like too much of a good thing, but it certainly has put things into focus about what's important, who's important. Like people are thinking, I think, when talking to the boys, like who do you really want to see right now? Like if this was all over, and what would you want to be doing? And it really brings that into focus. I like it. I like having my kids around a lot. It's kind of weird. I do actually like it. We're a very cuddly family, which is nice and huge for me, because I'm a hugger. I got a shirt. It's not on now, but I have a Bear shirt that says I'm a hugger. I've always been a hugger. I've got a family of huggers. And so it's awful for me at that point, but it's great to have my kids around who are very happy to hug back as well. They're not teenagers where they're like, I don't think so. They're very happy for affection, right? Which is nice and helpful for all of us, I think. Schooling, honestly, there's a lot of, I've got some medical issues with boys and some other, issues as they go along, ADHD, things like that. So honestly, with my youngest, and I think a lot of people hopefully hear this, that your kids grade 5, the last few months of their grade 5 year, if they kind of miss out on most of it, if they're maybe not doing the work they're supposed to be, please don't stress over it. It's not going to be the end of the world. They're not going to fall behind irreversibly. And you can just have fun with them, and you can just let them be, and you can just let them learn on their own, and hopefully they do, and be with their friends, and don't feel guilty about that. Because I think a lot of people do. A lot of people are feeling very stressed, and it's like, I volunteer at my kids' school. Another thing that I'm missing, right, is I love those kids. I go over and I joke around. I'm not a teacher, so I can joke around with them, right? And I can tease them and kid. And I'm the pizza guy, right? I do the pizza every week for them. And I love that. I really love that and miss that. But what it really gave me was more respect for what teachers do. You know what I mean? The things that they do. And teachers are you know, they're not just teachers. You know, these people are emotional lifelines to kids who do not have adults in their life that give them that. They don't have it. And that's a big part of this that's really heartbreaking for me, is I know there's a lot of kids stuck at home with people they don't want to be stuck at home with, you know? They don't have open discussions about things, and they don't have an emotional person to confide in. So that's hard. And teachers are that thing a lot, and they do all sorts of things. We give those kids food, you know what I mean? Like, we have to have food delivery come every week, and we have to have a kitchen full of food, because there's kids who come to school with a half a bag of chips for lunch, and that's just reality, right? And it sucks. But we do those things, and those teachers do those things. Not me. I mean, I help out, but they do those things all day, every day. And so you can't be expected as a parent home, dealing with a quarantine, dealing with your own job, dealing with your own things, to do a job of a professional teacher who does so many jobs just in their own way, right? So, you know, don't think you have to do that, and this will pass, and we will get back to a different kind of normalcy. But, you know, don't give yourself a break on that thing. We certainly did, and we feel a lot less stress and a lot less worry about it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
That's great advice, Dave. Dave Hudson, thanks for joining us and sharing your insight on all this. And I hope you get
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing these updates. They're great. I really appreciate it.
I hope you get back on stage real soon.
Yeah, man. I'll do some live stuff for people, because I'm gonna have to.
Exactly.
All
Thanks,
right.
Dave.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.